Commander Jackson Hale had seen many worlds, many civilizations, and many strange creatures, but Zithara was unlike anything he had ever encountered. Its skies shimmered in hues of violet and gold, and the twin moons cast gentle silver light across the sprawling forests and jagged mountains. From orbit, it looked peaceful. But Jackson knew better. Peace was often a mask for hidden danger. He stepped off the human starship onto the platform that led into the Krillian capital. Krillians were tall, lean beings with chitinous skin that glimmered in metallic shades. Their movements were precise, almost mechanical, yet their eyes were full of emotion. The Krillian people were proud, disciplined, and deeply suspicious of outsiders, and their leader, Queen Liara, was different. Jackson had heard whispers before arriving. Liara was young for a queen, and her ideas were considered strange, even weak. The Krillians mocked her gentle approach to leadership, preferring strength and intimidation. Yet when he first met her, Jackson saw something that the Krillians had missed: intelligence, courage, and an inner fire that refused to be hidden. "You're Jackson Hale," Liara said, her voice calm but firm. She had pale green eyes that seemed to look right through him, as if assessing not only his mind, but his intentions. "You come as a warrior, yet you carry the authority of an ambassador. Do you know what you are walking into?" Jackson studied her. "I know the Krillians are strong, proud, and skeptical, and I know that some of you do not trust me, but I also know that the Vorlaxians are coming, and strength alone will not save you." Liara nodded slightly, a subtle acknowledgement of his words. "You think you can lead my people better than I can?" He shook his head. "Not lead, help, and maybe, just maybe, see what others cannot." The council chamber was vast and intimidating. Dozens of Krillian leaders, their armor glittering, sat in semicircular tiers. They murmured and hissed amongst themselves as Jackson stepped forward. He could feel their judgment pressing down on him, heavy and sharp. "The Vorlaxians approach," Jackson began, his voice strong. "They will not wait for your debates. They will strike, and if we are not ready, Zithara will fall. I have been given the authority to select one Krillian leader to help coordinate with humanity. One Krillian who will rise above the Council's doubts and lead in this critical time." The room fell silent. Some faces betrayed disbelief, others, anger. Selecting a leader was a sacred tradition among Krillians, and for a human to intervene was almost sacrilegious. Liara stepped forward. Her posture was unassuming, but there was a light in her eyes that seemed to pierce the tension. "I am ready," she said simply. Murmurs erupted in the chamber. "Her?" hissed one counselor. "She is weak. She cannot command even a small unit." "Enough," Jackson said, raising a hand. "I do not choose based on appearances or tradition. I choose based on capability, courage, and vision. And I see all three in her." A roar of dissent rose from the council, but Jackson stood firm. Liara met his gaze without fear. "This is my choice," he declared. "Liara will lead." The council erupted in outrage. Some slammed their fists on the tables, others shouted accusations, but Liara remained calm, almost serene. She did not gloat. She did not retaliate. She simply nodded. After the council stormed out, Jackson and Liara were left alone in the chamber. "You make many enemies," Jackson said quietly. "I know," she replied, "but enemies cannot harm what they do not understand. If we survive the Vorlaxians, they will learn to respect me. Perhaps even now, they will learn to respect you as well." Jackson chuckled softly. "I doubt it, but I admire your courage." They spent the next hours walking through the Krillian capital, discussing plans, studying the terrain, and meeting units that would form the first combined human-Krillian defense force. Liara's demeanor impressed Jackson more with each encounter. She asked intelligent questions, noticed details others ignored. and treated her troops with fairness and respect, something that was almost unheard of among Krillians, who prized obedience above all else. By the time night fell, Jackson felt a growing certainty. He had chosen wisely. Liara was not just a queen in name. She had the potential to become a leader unlike any the galaxy had seen. As the twin moons rose, casting silver shadows across the capital, Jackson turned to Liara. "Tomorrow training begins. The Vorlaxians won't wait for us to be ready." Liara nodded. "Then we will not wait for them either." And in that moment, a silent understanding passed between them. Two very different leaders, united by purpose, ready to face a threat that could destroy not just their worlds, but countless others across the galaxy. The next morning, the sun barely peeked over Zithara's jagged mountains, casting long golden shadows across the training grounds. Commander Jackson Hale and Queen Liara walked side by side through the bustling compound, where Krillian soldiers drilled with sharp precision, their movements almost mechanical but disciplined. Liara paused, her eyes scanning the ranks of soldiers. "They are skilled," she said quietly, "but skill alone will not defeat the Vorlaxians. They lack unity." Jackson nodded. "Exactly. They follow orders, but they do not think. They fight for tradition, not strategy. That is why I chose you. You can inspire them. You can lead them beyond what they believe is possible." Liara frowned slightly. "Inspire? These are Krillians. They respect strength and fear failure. Inspiration is a foreign concept to them." "Then we will teach them a new strength," Jackson replied. "One that comes from thinking, from trusting, and from acting together. That is the strength that wins wars." Their first challenge was simple in theory, but difficult in practice. Jackson divided the soldiers into mixed teams of humans and Krillians and assigned them complex drills designed to test coordination, strategy, and adaptability. Most Krillians bristled at working with humans, their sharp eyes full of suspicion. "Commander Hale," one of the Krillian officers snapped, "why do we follow human orders? We have fought wars longer than your species has existed." Jackson met the officer's gaze steadily. "Because this war is different. The Vorlaxians are stronger than any enemy you have faced before. Alone you will fall. Together with humans and Krillians combining strengths, you will survive and win." The officer scowled but said nothing. Liara stepped forward, her presence quiet but commanding. "We will do this," she said. Her calm confidence drew the soldiers' attention, even those who had doubted her. "Judge the mission by results, not by tradition. Fail, and we will learn. Succeed, and we will grow stronger." The first exercises were rough. Humans and Krillians clashed in misunderstandings, communication faltered, and frustration grew. Liara observed carefully, noting who adapted quickly, who led naturally, and who resisted change. Jackson noticed her attention to detail and her patience. She did not scold. She guided. She did not demand obedience. She encouraged initiative. By the third day, progress was evident. Teams began to anticipate each other's movements, blending Krillian precision with human improvisation. Liara devised small strategies, using terrain and timing to gain advantages during mock battles. She suggested unconventional tactics that initially surprised Jackson, but they worked flawlessly. "Impressive," he admitted as they watched a team execute a flanking maneuver he hadn't predicted. Liara smiled faintly. "Experience is not the same as understanding. I may be young, but I watch, I learn, and I adapt." Even the Krillians began to notice. Whispers spread through the ranks. "The Queen knows more than we thought." Some officers exchanged skeptical glances but could not deny her effectiveness. Later, Jackson led Liara to the simulation room, a vast holographic chamber that projected real-time battlefield scenarios. Vorlaxian ships hovered ominously over cities and planets, and teams had to respond in seconds. "This is not just about fighting," Jackson explained. "It is about thinking, predicting, and reacting faster than the enemy. Vorlaxians are ruthless. They expect fear. They expect chaos. You will show them order, focus, and courage." Liara studied the holograms with quiet intensity. She rearranged troop movements, assigned roles based on strengths, and even suggested diversion tactics that Jackson had not considered. In every scenario, her decisions were precise, logical, and creative. "Excellent," Jackson said after a particularly successful exercise. "You're thinking 2 steps ahead, not just reacting. That is rare, even among humans." Liara nodded. "Thinking is survival. Fear alone will not save anyone. Strength alone will not either." Outside the simulations, Liara faced a personal test. Some Krillian soldiers, still loyal to old traditions, challenged her authority. They mocked her, questioning whether a queen who listened, learned, and adapted could command respect. One of them, a burly warrior named Corin, confronted her openly during a drill. "Your tactics are untested. Your rules are weak. If we follow you, we will die." Liara did not flinch. She met him calmly. "If we follow only what is expected, we will also die. But if we adapt, if we combine strength with thought, if we trust each other, we will survive. Are you willing to try?" Corin hesitated, caught off guard by her confidence. "I will follow orders, but only to see if your way works." "Good," Liara replied softly. "Then we begin." Over the next few days, under Jackson's guidance, Liara led the soldiers in increasingly complex exercises. She combined human ingenuity with Krillian discipline, teaching them strategies that had never been attempted before. Slowly, respect replaced doubt. Soldiers who had sneered at her tactics began to imitate them, and the council started to notice. Jackson observed quietly, impressed by her growth. "You're turning weakness into strength," he said during a private moment. "Your critics will have no choice but to follow you after this." Liara smiled faintly, a rare moment of personal pride. "I never sought to prove them wrong. I only sought to prove that survival requires more than tradition. It requires thinking, courage, and trust." The bond between Jackson and Liara grew stronger each day. They shared long discussions on strategy, ethics, and leadership. They debated, challenged each other, and learned from each other. Jackson saw her intelligence, empathy, and tactical brilliance. Liara saw his experience, his courage, and his ability to inspire confidence, even in the most skeptical soldiers. By the end of the second week, the Krillians had changed. Their movements were more coordinated, their teamwork stronger. Liara had earned not only their obedience, but also their respect. Even Corin, once openly hostile, now followed her orders without hesitation, acknowledging her insight. One evening, as the twin moons bathed the capital in silver light, Jackson and Liara stood on a balcony overlooking the training grounds. Soldiers practiced below, moving with efficiency and purpose. "They are ready," Liara said quietly, watching them. "But readiness alone will not save us. We must be vigilant. The Vorlaxians will not make mistakes, and neither can we." Jackson nodded. "They may be stronger, but we are smarter. We fight together, not as separate forces, but as one. That is what will give us the edge." Liara turned to him, a hint of a smile on her lips. "Then we begin together, not just as commander and queen, but as partners. Our people depend on it." Jackson extended a hand. "Partners, then." She shook it firmly. "Partners." And for the first time, Jackson realized that the true strength of leadership was not in commanding fear or respect, but in building trust, unity, and courage, even among those who doubted. Together they had. The early morning air on Zithera was thick with mist, wrapping the mountains and forests in an eerie, silent calm. Commander Jackson Hale and Queen Liara were reviewing the latest Vorlaxian intelligence reports when an urgent message arrived. The Krillian Council had requested an immediate meeting. Liara's expression darkened. "They usually call for meetings when they disagree with me," she said quietly. "I fear this is no exception." Jackson studied her closely. "Then we face it together. Trust in yourself and I will stand by your side." The council chamber, normally filled with tension and murmurs, was charged with hostility today. Several high-ranking officers whispered among themselves, casting sharp glances at Liara. It was clear that not all Krillians had accepted her rise to leadership. One of the counselors, a stern Krillian named Vorin, stepped forward. His voice was sharp, dripping with disdain. "Your methods have alienated our people, Queen Liara. We cannot risk following someone untested into battle against the Vorlaxians." Liara held her ground. "I have trained our soldiers, organized strategies, and united humans and Krillians into a single force. The Vorlaxians will attack soon, and hesitation will cost lives. I ask not for blind loyalty, but for cooperation. Only together can we survive." Another counselor, more secretive and cunning, stepped from the shadows. "Cooperation is admirable, but strength is what Krillians respect. If you continue to lead in this manner, you will fail. We cannot allow this." Jackson's eyes narrowed. He sensed the tension building to something dangerous. This was more than doubt. It was outright conspiracy. Later that day, as Liara prepared for a routine training exercise, Jackson intercepted a report that confirmed his suspicions. A faction of Krillians was planning to undermine her leadership, even to the point of sabotage during the upcoming defense drills. Liara studied the report carefully. "They believe they can remove me before the real battle even begins," she said. "They underestimate what can happen when people trust each other and fight as one. But we must act carefully. Open confrontation now could fracture the army." Jackson nodded. "Then we prepare. We make sure the soldiers who doubt you cannot interfere, and we turn this challenge into a lesson for them." During the next training exercise, the betraying faction attempted to manipulate the drills, creating chaos in the ranks. A simulated ambush turned dangerous as they misdirected troops and ignored commands, hoping to make Liara appear incapable. Liara's reaction was calm and precise. She adjusted her strategy on the spot, redirecting the troops, reinforcing weak positions, and using the betrayer's own moves against them. Jackson watched in awe as she coordinated complex maneuvers under pressure. Her mind was sharp, calculating risks, predicting outcomes, and turning potential disaster into a successful exercise. Even the human soldiers, who were already skilled, were impressed. After the exercise, Liara addressed the troops. "You saw what can happen when loyalty is divided," she said. "But you also saw what can happen when we work together, trust each other, and adapt to challenges. True strength comes from unity, not division." Her words struck a chord. Soldiers who had been skeptical began to understand the value of her leadership. Even some of the betraying faction hesitated, realizing that she was capable of more than they had anticipated. But the danger was not over. That night, Jackson and Liara received word that the Vorlaxians were moving faster than expected, planning to strike Zithera's outer colonies within days. The council faction plotting against Liara saw an opportunity. They proposed sending her on a reconnaissance mission with minimal protection, hoping the Vorlaxians would eliminate her before she could lead the full defense. Liara learned of the plot from Jackson before she left. "They would sacrifice me to preserve their own pride," she said, her eyes hard with determination. "But I will not allow fear to guide my decisions. We face the Vorlaxians together, not separately. I will go, but on my terms." Jackson agreed. "We will go together, and we will control the situation. Your people will see your courage, and they will learn to respect it. The reconnaissance mission took them through dense forests, jagged cliffs, and abandoned colonies. Vorlaxian scouts had already begun probing the area, and the tension was palpable. Jackson led the team, keeping them alert, while Liara observed and directed movements, demonstrating skill, insight, and courage. Suddenly, a Vorlaxian patrol ambushed them. The attacking force was larger than expected, and the terrain left few options for defense. Liara remained calm. "Split the troops, flank them from the north and south, use the rocks as cover." Jackson followed her command, and together they orchestrated a counterattack that caught the Vorlaxians off guard. Liara personally led a small unit to intercept the enemy commander, her movements precise and fearless. The battle was fierce, but short. With combined human and Krillian tactics, they defeated the patrol. Liara's leadership had turned a potentially fatal situation into a clear victory. Returning to the capital, the news of their success spread quickly. Soldiers and officers alike began to recognize her capability, even those who had doubted her. The conspirators in the council were forced to reconsider their opposition, realizing that underestimating Liara could cost them everything. That night, Jackson and Liara stood on a high balcony overlooking the glowing city below. "They tried to destroy your reputation before the war even began," Jackson said quietly, "but you turned it into proof of your strength." Liara looked out over the city, her face resolute. "Strength is not in being feared. It is in facing challenges, in surviving betrayal, and in uniting people who doubt you. I will lead this army, and we will be ready when the Vorlaxians strike." Jackson placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "And you won't be alone. Whatever comes, we face it together. Your courage inspires more than you know." For the first time, Liara allowed a small smile to appear. "Then we prepare, Commander. For them, for us, and for every life that depends on our victory." Above the capital, the twin moons shone like sentinels in the night sky, witnessing the rise of a leader who had once been dismissed, now proving herself with every action, every decision, and every risk taken. The Vorlaxians would soon test them, but Liara and Jackson were ready, not just to fight, but to show the galaxy that unity, courage, and intelligence could defeat even the greatest of threats. The morning sun rose over Zithra's horizon like a golden promise, but the glow could not hide the tension gripping the planet. Scout reports confirmed that the Vorlaxian fleet had arrived in the outer orbit, a vast armada of sleek black ships bristling with weapons. Commander Jackson Hale and Queen Liara stood on the command balcony, overlooking the preparations. The combined human-Krillian forces were ready, or as ready as they could be. Liara's eyes swept across the troops. Humans and Krillians moved in synchronized drills, their training and cooperation finally showing. Yet beneath the calm, she felt the weight of responsibility. One wrong decision could destroy everything. Jackson stood beside her. "They are stronger than any force you've faced, but we are smarter. You've led them well, Liara. Today we see what that truly means." Liara nodded. "Today we prove that unity is stronger than fear, that courage is stronger than intimidation." The Vorlaxians struck without warning. Massive beams of energy lit the sky as ships descended, targeting the outer colonies. Ground forces moved quickly, activating anti-aircraft systems and coordinating counterattacks. Liara and Jackson led the central command, directing troops, adjusting strategies, and inspiring the soldiers with their resolve. The first wave of Vorlaxian fighters attempted a direct assault on the main city. Krillian soldiers hesitated at first, recalling the previous betrayals and doubts, but Liara's presence reassured them. "Focus! Trust your training! Trust each other!" she shouted. Her words carried authority and confidence, and the troops responded with renewed vigor. Jackson coordinated the human squads to flank the Vorlaxian forces, while Liara led a Krillian strike team in a daring counterattack. Using the terrain to their advantage, Liara's unit climbed the jagged cliffs, striking the Vorlaxian ground forces from unexpected angles. The battle intensified. Explosions rocked the fields, energy beams sliced through the sky, and smoke and dust created a haze over the battlefield. Amid the chaos, Liara spotted the Vorlaxian commander, a massive figure in armored exosuit, leading a group of elite fighters to breach the city walls. She turned to Jackson. "I will handle this. You coordinate the main forces. Protect the civilians. We cannot risk losing our home." Jackson hesitated, concern flashing in his eyes. "Be careful. We cannot lose you." Liara's expression was firm. "I will return victorious. Or not at all. Now go." With that, she led her elite unit in a swift, calculated assault. The Vorlaxians were powerful and ruthless, but Liara's team moved with precision and coordination, striking from multiple angles. Each maneuver reflected her intelligence and adaptability, honed during weeks of preparation and training. Meanwhile, Jackson orchestrated the broader defense. Human engineers activated energy shields. Krillian artillery rained down on enemy lines, and coordinated squads intercepted Vorlaxian troops. He moved constantly, giving orders, adjusting strategies, and ensuring every unit performed at its best. Back on the cliffs, Liara engaged the Vorlaxian commander directly. The duel was fierce. Energy blades clashed, sparks flying, each strike testing skill, strength, and courage. Despite the commander's size and power, Liara's agility, quick thinking, and knowledge of terrain allowed her to gain the upper hand. With a final, precise maneuver, she disarmed the commander and forced him to retreat. Her team cheered, and the surrounding soldiers, inspired by her bravery, pressed the advantage. The Vorlaxians, stunned by the coordinated human-Krillian resistance, began to fall back. Jackson's forces pushed forward simultaneously. The city's defenses, combined with Liara's offensive, created a pincer effect. Vorlaxian units found themselves trapped, cut off, and overwhelmed. Despite their superior technology, they could not anticipate the clever strategies employed by the united forces. Hours passed, and the battle raged on. Civilians were evacuated, injuries were treated, and soldiers fought with a level of determination neither humans nor Krillians had experienced before. Each victory, each small triumph, strengthened morale and proved that unity and trust were more powerful than fear. By evening, the Vorlaxians had been pushed back, their retreat marked by the destruction of their forward command ships. Scythera remained standing, its cities intact, and its people alive. Exhausted but victorious, Jackson and Liara surveyed the battlefield. Liara's team returned, battered but triumphant. Soldiers hailed her courage, shouting praises that had once seemed impossible. Even those who had doubted her leadership now bowed their heads in respect, acknowledging that the queen they had scorned had saved them all. Jackson approached her, eyes full of admiration. "You did it, Liara. They could not have survived this without you. You led with strength, intelligence, and courage." Liara shook her head, weary but resolute. "We did it together. Every human and Krillian here played a part. Courage is contagious, but unity wins wars." The Krillian Council, who had plotted against her only weeks ago, came forward, humbled and respectful. Vorin, the stern counselor, spoke first. "Queen Liara, your actions have proven your wisdom and strength. We owe you our lives and our respect." Liara nodded, accepting their acknowledgement with grace. "I lead not for respect or power, but for survival and justice. Remember that our strength comes from working together, not from division." That night, Scythera's capital celebrated. Fires burned in joy, songs of victory echoed through the streets, and humans and Krillians alike shared stories of bravery. Jackson and Liara stood together on the balcony, watching the festivities below. "You were amazing today," Jackson said quietly. "You inspired everyone and you fought like a warrior." Liara smiled faintly. "It was not just me. It was all of us. But thank you. Your guidance and trust helped me lead when I doubted myself." They stood in silence for a moment, the twin moons reflecting off Zithra's shimmering forests, the stars above promising a future of possibilities. Jackson spoke again, softly but with certainty. "We've faced the worst together, and I know this is only the beginning, but if we continue like this, nothing will stop us." Liara's gaze met his, steady and unflinching. "Then we move forward, not just as warriors but as leaders. Together, we will protect our worlds and prove that courage, unity, and intelligence can overcome any threat." And as the night deepened, Zithra slept safely, guarded by the queen who had once been dismissed and the human warrior who had believed in her when no one else would. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of a leader, and the legend of their victory would be told for generations. The morning after the battle, Zithra's skies were calm and bright. The air was filled with the scent of fires recently extinguished and the soft murmur of rebuilding. The planet had survived the Vorlaxian invasion, but scars remained: scorched earth, shattered buildings, and exhausted soldiers. Yet there was hope, pride, and an undeniable sense of victory. Commander Jackson Hale walked beside Queen Liara through the streets of the capital, observing the recovery efforts. Humans and Krillians worked side by side, clearing debris, rebuilding homes, and sharing supplies. The unity that had begun in the training grounds had spread across the city, stronger than ever. "They are beginning to see," Jackson said quietly. "Even those who doubted you now understand your leadership." Liara glanced around, her pale green eyes reflecting the morning sun. "Leadership is not about being feared or obeyed," she said softly. "It is about guiding people, earning their trust, and showing them a path they can follow safely. Today, my people have chosen to follow me willingly, and that is worth more than any victory." Their walk led them to the central plaza, where a gathering of Krillians, humans, and allies awaited them. Council members who had once conspired against Liara now stood with bowed heads, offering public acknowledgement of her leadership. Vorin, the stern counselor, stepped forward. "Queen Liara, your courage and wisdom have saved us all. We were wrong to doubt you. You have earned the respect of your people and the humans who fought alongside us." Liara inclined her head gracefully. "Thank you, Vorin. But respect must not end here. We must continue to work together, prepare for the future, and protect our worlds. The Vorlaxians may retreat today, but we cannot afford to underestimate what comes next." As the crowd cheered, Jackson felt a profound sense of pride, not for himself, but for what they had accomplished together. He had chosen to believe in Liara when others did not, and she had proven herself beyond anyone's imagination. Her strength had always been there. It simply needed the right chance to shine. After the public ceremony, Liara and Jackson retreated to the royal chambers to discuss the next steps. Liara sat behind a polished crystal table, reviewing maps, troop placements, and resource allocations. Jackson leaned over her shoulder, pointing out areas where humans and Krillians could improve coordination. "You have grown even stronger through all of this," Jackson said. "Not just as a warrior or a queen, but as a leader. Your people will follow you through any challenge now." Liara's expression softened. "I could not have done this without you. You trusted me when no one else did, guided me without taking control, and believed in the potential of my people. That is rare, even among humans." Jackson smiled faintly. "Then we were both lucky. We found a leader and a partner in each other. That is a rare combination in this galaxy." The months following the battle were a period of rebuilding and strengthening alliances. Liara implemented reforms that improved Krillian society, training programs to unite humans and Krillians, infrastructure projects to restore the cities, and diplomatic efforts to prevent future attacks. Her council slowly transformed, accepting that strength could come in many forms, not just through fear and dominance. Jackson remained by her side, not as a commander giving orders, but as an advisor, mentor, and friend. Their bond had deepened through shared danger, trust, and mutual respect. They had faced betrayal, led armies, and stared down one of the galaxy's most formidable threats. And they had done it together. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the capital, Liara and Jackson stood on the balcony overlooking the city. The soft glow of fires and lanterns reflected the vibrancy of life returning to Zithera. "You have changed this world," Jackson said, "and I have no doubt you will continue to shape the galaxy." Liara's gaze met his. "We have changed it together. Without humans and Krillians working as one, we would not have survived. And without your belief in me, I might not have had the courage to lead when it mattered most." There was a pause, filled with unspoken understanding. Both of them had faced impossible odds, lost sleep, and risked everything. Yet, in that quiet moment, there was peace and recognition of what they had achieved. Liara finally spoke, her voice calm but warm. "I was once dismissed, doubted, and overlooked. But now, I am respected, trusted, and recognized. That is the true reward. Not power, not title, but the ability to make a difference and to inspire others to rise to their potential." Jackson nodded. "And for me, the reward is seeing you succeed, seeing your people thrive, and knowing that together we made the impossible possible. You became more than anyone imagined. You became a true queen and a true partner." Liara smiled faintly. "Then we move forward. Zithera is safe for now, but the galaxy is vast. Challenges will come, as they always do. But we are ready. Together." The months turned into years. Under Liara's guidance, Krillians and humans formed a lasting alliance, sharing knowledge, technology, and culture. Border planets were fortified, trade routes protected, and the Vorlaxians were kept at bay by a combined fleet. Zithera flourished, and Liara's leadership became legendary throughout the galaxy. Jackson and Liara continued to work together, their bond unbreakable. Soldiers who had once doubted her now spoke of her bravery with reverence. Humans and Krillians alike celebrated the partnership that had saved a world. In quiet moments, away from councils and battles, Jackson and Liara reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From the moment he had chosen her as a leader, when no one else believed in her, to the day they faced the Vorlaxians together, their trust and cooperation had shaped history. "You were my prize," Jackson said one evening with a small smile. "Not in the way others think, but because you taught me the value of courage, trust, and partnership." Liara laughed softly. "And you were mine, Jackson Hale. Not for what you wielded in battle, but for the way you saw potential where others only saw weakness. We found each other at the right time, and together we achieved what seemed impossible." Above them, the twin moons shone silently, witness to the rise of a queen once doubted, and the human warrior who had chosen to believe in her. Together, they had forged not only victory, but a legacy, a testament to courage, unity, and the extraordinary power of trust. And as Zithera slept peacefully beneath the stars, a new chapter began. The galaxy would remember the story of Queen Liara and Commander Jackson Hale, the leaders who proved that even in the darkest moments, hope, intelligence, and human and alien courage could triumph. The reward was not just victory, but the proof that trust, unity, and belief in others could change the course of history. And in that, both humans and Krillians found something greater than survival. They found inspiration, partnership, and the promise of a brighter future.